Willie D Live.
What's up, family? As the Nolan Wells case head to a grand jury, what if, I know it's a long shot, but what if they filed charges against someone or some people? Yeah, man. If that happens, what type of legal defense might the defense try? I was thinking about that like last night, man. I was like, yeah, they might try this, they're gonna try this, they're gonna try this. So you know what? So I put together some of the strategies that I think that the defense might try. Starting with, and this is very obvious, I'm sure that you guys came up with this one also off the top. It was an accident. Because that's what they're saying. It was an accident. He drowned. It was an accident. This would probably be the cleanest defense if the charge involved Nolan's death. Nolan voluntarily stayed on Horn Island. Nobody intended for him to die. Something happened after the others left that they couldn't control, and that'll force the prosecutors to prove that another person actually caused Nolan's death, right? So my thing is this: before you can prove murder, can you even prove somebody killed Nolan, right? So I got to think. I'm putting my defense attorney hat on. So I've been talking to a lot of defense attorneys lately, trial attorneys, like my man Andrew Wilkerson and my man Jack Palmieri and talking to UA Mika Lewis and all these people, man. These people got knowledge, and it's kind of rubbing off on me now. Yeah, right? I got another strategy. What about nobody knows? You know what I'm saying? Nobody knows what happened. That could be a strategy. Nobody knows what happened. Don't necessarily explain Nolan's death. Make the prosecutors prove their explanation beyond a reasonable doubt. Attack the gaps in the timeline. They could challenge forensic conclusions, challenge witness reliability, emphasis on absence of direct evidence if that's still the state of the evidence. The defense does not have to solve Nolan's death. The prosecution has to prove this case, right? So, and this is one that they're trying right now. They're blaming someone else, right? If several people were present, lawyers could potentially separate their clients from one another. My client didn't do it. Well, my client didn't do it. Well, your client, well, his client, maybe his client did it. Well, maybe somebody who don't even have a client did it. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe some client who don't have a lawyer yet did it. You know what I'm saying? My client didn't know what somebody else was going to do. They could do like that. Like if let's say if it comes out that, yeah, they did Nolan in and somebody witnessed it. And now you got obstruction of justice, right? So at that point, somebody could say, hey, my client didn't know he was going to kill him, and my client just panicked, but they didn't actually kill him. So you can't just be putting all that on my client. See, this creates the possibility of defendants pointing fingers at each other. See, friendship can disappear real fast when everybody is looking at prison time. And this is what I've been saying about that reward. Shoot that reward, shoot some people some money, $125,000 go a long way. But even before that, they don't want to go to prison. That is the biggest reward that a prosecution can give out. They don't want to go to jail. They want to go to prison for life. So you put them all in one room and you let them know, if you don't tell me what happened, you're going to prison. If you're not honest, you're going to prison. That's the biggest one. And they got a lot of weak links, man. It's too many people involved. Way too many people involved. They got, 6, 7, 8 people who was on the boat? Well, 7 people came back. But anyway, they got all of that. They got all of the friends and siblings and parents and confidants. If they Catholic, they got a priest they done told something to. And there ain't no statute of limitation on murder. So it ain't going to be no way possible for them to live the next 50, 60 years and not tell anybody. That many people? Nah, man, it ain't going to happen. Attack the investigation. That's what they could do. They could argue investigators mishandled the case from the beginning. You know? They could point to the sheriff's early no foul play assessment. Right? They could do that. They could challenge evidence collection and preservation. Right? They could question delays involving digital evidence. Here's one just came to me. They could attack chain of custody where legitimately supported. They can do that. The defense may put law enforcement on trial right beside the defendants. I don't know how they would do that. I just think that they're all in the same gang, fam, and I don't think the defense is, even if the defense get in there, I think it'll be like a Carmelo Anthony type situation where all of them, are part of the good old boy system. That defense attorney would have to come from out of town. The lead defense attorney would have to come from out of town. They have to come from another state. They could argue that, and I'm sure they're going to do this, that social media poisoned the case. They could argue that months of viral accusations made an impartial jury difficult to find. They could challenge witnesses who consumed extensive online coverage before giving later statements. They could argue people began repeating theories rather than firsthand memories. Man, yeah, they could do a lot of argument. They could do a whole lot of argument. Yeah. How do you find 12 jurors who haven't already heard somebody's version of Nolan Wells? See, that's going to be the question. How are they going to do that? How are they going to do that? At this point, it'll be a dog and pony show, fam, because it's impossible to find somebody who don't know. That's like going to New York and trying to find a fair and impartial jury for Diddy. It's Diddy, it's New York. He's synonymous with New York. It's very difficult for people to say, yeah, I'm a New Yorker. I live in New York and I ain't never heard nothing about Diddy or the Diddy case. I don't know nothing about Bad Boy. I ain't never bought a record. I ain't never danced to the music. Come on, fam. They could argue mental state. This is where things get interesting. A defense attorney could argue that even if prosecutors prove certain conduct, they haven't proved the mental state required for the particular offense charged. But Mississippi law creates significant limitations here, right? So it's going to be tough either way around. It's going to be tough. This is a toss-up. If it does make it to trial, it's a toss-up. But I do think it's a toss-up in the defense favor because they're all on the same team. It's a good old boy network. And if somebody was going to go to jail, at least right now, somebody should have been charged or would have been charged. Then they could also blame it on alcohol and drugs. If evidence showed drinking or drug use, you might hear, well, they were young, they were intoxicated. They weren't thinking clearly. They panicked, right? You're going to hear all of that. But here's the one right here, fam. This is the one going to throw you for a loop right here. This is the one that's going to throw you for a loop. Affluenza. That's the defense. That's the defense that these rich kids like to use so they can say that, they've been so privileged that they shouldn't be held accountable for acting privileged, acting like there's no consequences to their actions, right? They could use that strategy. Affluenza. And let me tell you something. So if you're not familiar with it, it was used in 2013 in the trial of 16-year-old Ethan Couch in Texas. A defense psychology testified that the teenager was so coddled by his wealthy parents and sheltered from consequences that he could not distinguish right from wrong. You know, that is absolutely amazing that they were able to do that and get away with it. The funny thing is this, fam. Imagine a poor person trying to use being poor as an excuse for doing wrong. That's never really worked. Could privilege eventually become part of the explanation for somebody's behavior? I'm rich, therefore I'm innocent. More like, I was young, I was immature. I panicked. I grew up insulated from circumstances. My judgment wasn't terrible. I mean, my judgment was terrible, but I'm not a terrible person. Don't judge the rest of my life by the worst decision made as a teenager. That's how they're going to play it. If I'm the prosecutor, I'm pouncing all over affluenza. Try that with me. I'm going to step right up. Ladies and gentlemen, jury, if poverty isn't a defense for poor kids, why should privilege become mitigation for wealthy ones? I'm going to say it again. If poverty isn't a defense for poor kids, why should privilege become mitigation for wealthy ones? This one, and this one, that one too. They're all guilty. Lock them up. Lock them up. Lock those uncivilized mutts up and give this family justice. No more talk.